Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So I just want to make a quick video about how they try to confuse things, right? The truth, in a sense, is pretty simple. I've made it very clear, and when it comes to the key information here, I made it very clear in my Proof from Christ playlist. And whatever the righteous man thinks about things is what I think about things. So when it comes to being mad at the world, I'm mad at the world for their rebellion against God. But at times the government tries to kind of confuse things slightly. They don't ever really confuse things in a large way from what I gather. Okay, but they do little things here and there. It's not entirely clear why they're doing that. One day they might very well change my videos to a large degree, but I obviously am Christ, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. So really fast, I just wanted to say that, when it comes to the issue of gang members, when it comes to the issue of the community, right? Okay, for example, there's said to be, Southfield's said to be about 12% Jewish, and 1 in 3 Jews are said to be Zionists. So that means there's somewhere around 3,000 or so Zionist Jews in Southfield. Now, this is not exactly a zone where people clash over these ideas, from what I gather, right? And it happens other places, right? So there's that. Then you have a lot of gang members out there, and in one of my videos I said something to the effect of, I said something insulting about gang members in general. Now again, whatever the righteous person thinks is what I think. So I didn't quite mean to say it that exact way. Okay, I was very angry. I can't review my videos because of my condition, and there's a lot of videos posted, and I don't remember which one it is, and I don't have a lot of time to discuss these things and to kind of dig up this stuff. I have a lot more pressing issues to consider. But I did notice several things that are alarming. One is when it comes to my clothing, right? They made it so I have to wear the same clothing all the time, which already makes it so I seem kind of suspicious to people, right? Then I wear these work pants, right? I have several pairs of work pants. They get worn, and I buy another one, and I'm able to wear those. And I have to wear these other pants that have like holes in them to sleep because of the technology and the substances and the fumes that they use. They interfere with my ability to kind of wear certain clothes, right? It makes my body go numb, or it messes up my joints, or I have trouble walking, and so on and so forth, right? I hear popping sounds in my body because of the clothes. And so that made it so I had to wear these kind of blue Cortez shoes that are associated with gangs at times, but it's not a big deal. The gangs in the area, the people in the area, by now they're used to me and what I'm wearing, and they've kind of accepted it for the most part, right? Especially if I'm at the park here, it's not going to be a big deal for the most part, right? And it's easy to explain to people if they were to ask me, where I'm from and so on and so forth, but it still creates this kind of awkwardness, this kind of obstacle. And then recently, these brown boots that I was wearing, when I'm not wearing those shoes, I only wear the brown boots and those shoes, right? And I have these like white shoes I only wear in the house because there's substance on the floor that makes so I have to wear shoes in the house, and they're like worn out, and I don't want them to get them dirty. There's certain circumstances of the situation that make it so that I wear, starting today, I started wearing these black boots. And they kind of go with my kind of work pants in a way that makes it so it looks like I'm in the military or something, which confuses the situation, right? Maybe not in the military, but have a military theme, like a lot of these mass shooters and terrorists. And I'm not a terrorist, not a mass shooter, what have you. So they're doing little things like that. But again, you can't let the government intimidate you. I'm Jesus, the bottom line. You let that scare you, then you don't really love God, you don't love your family. That's that. There's workarounds for these things. There's a lot of workarounds, especially if people rally to me. So it's important to note these things, right? That to some degree they try to put me at odds with the community, and there's these lurking potential threats from, say the Zionists, even though my central issue is not Palestine. I do not agree with the state of Israel. I know there's a bunch of controlled opposition out there, Okay, both parties are basically run by conservatives and corporations these days. Just recently, I saw a video with these for the most part, they're American Jews, and there was one guy who was like deported from college. He's a famous guy. I forgot his name, and one of them described, I think it was the famous guy. He described the Democratic Party as a right-wing party these days, and the Republican Party is the far right-wing party. And that's important to note there. I think that a lot of people who are Democrats, they don't want it that way, right? The majority of them, but they have us kind of divided in a certain way, and that's part of why they're doing this ridiculous psychological operation. And they get some kind of kick out of it, because why didn't they just assassinate me? Why didn't they do this or that? Why didn't they just work around me? Because they're some kind of lunatics, right? They're some kind of occultists. They're sadists. If you analyze the motivation of the elite, and you realize they have lots of money and power, it's easy for them to control things and this, that, and the other thing. Why are they doing the things the way they do? Because they get a kick out of it. They're best described as pedo-sadists, as they're child molesters, and they have childish relationships with people when they have relationships with adults. It's in the behavior, it's in the clothes, it's in the philosophy, it's in the religious depictions of things, these childish depictions of angels and so on and so forth. Let me wrap this up quickly. Another trick they use advanced technologies. Is another way to come between people in the community, and they have people in the community play stupid, right? So they can kind of scan my brain remotely with nanotechnology and various technologies. And if you research this stuff, you see there's patents, there's certain wars that give it away. Okay, they were like hacking the brains of pigeons and various animals in the Afghanistan war, I believe it was. They're doing all kinds of stuff. They were cloud seeding in the Vietnam War. These technologies have been there for a while. And we see just like they're abusing everything, and they're acting like everything's a joke, the news, entertainment, okay, social media, the public personalities, right? The public figures, rather. They're abusing these things, and they're just like making weird faces, and they often kind of, they make a face where they like shut their mouth real hard, trying to tell everyone to keep quiet about things, right? And they do these things like this. Now, what I was gonna say before I was interrupted in various ways, and they get some kind of kick out of that, and sometimes I remember what I'm gonna say, sometimes I don't. And they think that it's smart. It's very stupid. If you look at who's done what over the years, you see that I've moved masterfully, and they move very foolishly. All victories are in principle. I've been triumphant. And they're, lower than Judas, lower than Caiaphas, lower than Herod in the Bible. But anyway, I was going to say that for the most part, I've been getting along with the community, including the Jewish community, right? I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm part Jewish. I have Jewish people in my family. My mother, I consider her part Jewish. Okay. The Igbos, my father's tribe, are known as the Jews of Africa. And 2 out of 3 Jews in America are said to not self-identify as Zionist. I don't think it's a coincidence that they, were seeking to cut me off from saying that. Not that Jews are likely to take my side. I go as far as to say they're not. I don't think anyone's likely to take my side. That shouldn't stop you from rallying to me and so on and so forth. But it's because they want to feed into the misconceptions that they're trying to create.